Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Call Sheet Confessions. I have a very special guest today. She's a therapist who became one of Hollywood's most trusted interviewers. She's the host and executive producer of Really Famous, and her name is Kara Mayer Robinson. Welcome, Kara, to Call Sheet
Thank you. I'm so happy to
Confessions.
be here.
I'm so excited. I'm so glad this worked out. And
Totally, like a little
yeah.
last minute thing, and it's all good.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
love it.
So take me all the way back. What were you like as a kid? Where'd you grow up? What were some of your early interests?
Okay, so it's funny because you asked that question, and just now I was having a conversation with somebody about my area code. My
Okay.
cell phone is a 201 area code because I'm from New Jersey. So I grew up in New Jersey, and I still have the same area code. Yes.
Nice,
So
yes.
I grew up outside of New York City in the burbs, and a really nice, sweet childhood with just a great family, honestly.
That's amazing.
And yeah, it was fun and like wholesome and stuff. And I was obsessed with TV.
Okay, yeah.
I loved it. That was like one of my favorite things. And I remember my dad worked with somebody who worked on Sesame Street, and it was filmed in New York. And so somehow he got us in to see Sesame Street being filmed. So my parents took me and my sister, and I was, of course, like, oh, yes, this is for me. And I was probably like, I don't know, this high. So
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know, 5, 4, 5, I don't know when it was. And then my mom at some point took me to see a sitcom that was being filmed live in front of a studio audience. And I saw that, and I think that's how I was kind of hooked on like, oh, okay, so maybe people actually get involved in these things. They don't just watch on TV.
Yeah.
You can work in this industry.
Yeah, that's the cool part about growing up in New York, too. And, like, in LA and New York, you're able to go and watch these productions being made and seeing the back end of things. So it's cool that you had that early experience to kind of realize everything that goes into creating these big productions.
Yeah, and it's like it's so cool to see.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I love the greatest shows on TV too. I love watching them, but it was really cool seeing behind the scenes.
Yeah, totally. What are some of your favorite shows?
My favorite shows now. This I ask people this sometimes too, and it's hard. It's always hard for us to think in the moment.
I'm the same way.
I just mentioned the studio to somebody.
Yeah.
I'm like, I saw that they're filming season 2, I believe now. There was something on Instagram with Seth Rogen filming in like Venice, I think. And so that's funny. I love that. I will watch everything. I'm interested in a lot of TV. Plus, I really need to know what's going on because I'm talking to people in the industry anyway.
Right.
So
staying in the know.
I had
too.
somebody on earlier today. His name is Chris Parnell, and he's one of the voices on Rick and Morty.
Oh, so cool.
So I would normally not watch Rick and Morty, but I was like, okay, I better give it a little look. So it was fun. It was a good show.
Yeah. I also grew up on the East Coast. I'm from Philly, so
Oh, okay.
love having a fellow East Coaster on the podcast.
Did you go to the Jersey Shore growing up?
Yes. We
All
were
right.
like Ocean City, Avalon, Wildwood, all of them.
Yeah, I went to Wildwood. I think my family used to vacation there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when I was very little. I don't remember it that well, and then eventually it turned into Long Beach Island.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you ended up going to Columbia University. What was your major and how did you decide on that?
Yeah. Okay, so I went to Columbia Graduate School.
Got it.
So undergrad, I went to the University of Florida, and I majored in accounting. So it was a little bit of a weird trip to where I am now.
Totally.
So I did that. I knew I didn't like accounting, but I was like, I went to college thinking I would get into TV production. All of the classes I would need to graduate in 4 years weren't available when I was picking the prereqs or whatever. So I like just made a change. And I was like, oh, all my friends are getting these business classes, like nothing. Maybe I could see myself like in a suit going off to work and like being really successful. So I majored in accounting. I got a job at a bank. And I hated it, of course. And then I was like, this is not for me. I have to go back to New York. And I got a job at Comedy Central.
So cool.
So I was like, okay, cool. I'm in my zone now, Comedy Central. But it was a business job because I had a business degree.
Right.
So I was like bored to tears with the work. No offense, Comedy Central. I was bored to tears. And then it's funny because I'm in the middle. I just wrote an acceptance speech for an award show that I'm going to. And part of it was I made a backup speech. Anyway, it was about how when I was working at Comedy Central, I had a little radio on my desk, and I would listen to a call-in show for advice.
Ah.
So like Frasier, somebody would call, or people would call in, and this psychologist would give them answers, solutions to their problems. And I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And then like my coworkers would come over, and we'd all put our feet up on my desk, and they'd like dish on all of their problems, their dating problems, and just like parent issues. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to grad school, and I'm going to become a therapist.
Ah.
And part of it was also based on, at the time, I was watching Nick at Night, and there was the Bob Newhart show, which is old, but they were doing reruns and stuff, and he played a psychiatrist, and I was like, yeah, I could kind of see myself doing this. So that's why I went to Columbia to become a therapist.
That's so interesting. You were kind of like your friend group, coworker, therapist, and then decided to make it for real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I could do this. Why not make a career out of it?
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting to taking it back to always being fascinated growing up with TV production and then, trying out accounting. I think we kind of test ourselves in ways where we think we know what we want to do and then we switch, but when you have that calling in your heart that's just telling you it's not right, it's because you're going to end up back where, you know you're meant to be.
Yeah.
So then you ended up now at Columbia studying psychology. From there, what happened next?
There were even more twists and turns after that. So I started as a therapist, and then at the time, self-help books were very popular, and I was like, I feel like I could write one of these. So I was like, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And I sent out a book proposal to a bunch of agents. And they all said, well, most of them ignored me, but those who didn't came back and said, yeah, you just have never been published. So like we wouldn't take a chance on someone who hasn't been published. Get published, come back to us. So I started to get published writing articles I started with my local newspaper. I wrote an article, like a random little article, and I kept working my way up. And then eventually I was writing for the New York Times, the Hollywood Reporter, Wall Street Journal. And then my specialty became doing interviews with actors. Because again, like you were just saying, you end up going back to what's in your heart anyway. And what was in my heart was like entertainment.
Yeah.
And like television. So I started interviewing actors, and I knew that like I really enjoyed that. So I did that while also doing my therapy practice. And then everything was kind of shifting in the media industry. And my husband was like, oh, you should start a podcast. And I was like, podcast? What? It was before most people knew what a podcast was.
Got it.
Literally.
Yeah.
But like the final straw was I went to interview Tim Gunn from Project Runway. And he's fabulous.
Yes.
And I went to interview him for the New York Times for a short piece. And he and I were like, we had the greatest time at his apartment. He baked me little brownies, like mini bites, and like he showed me his Emmy. And then we just talked about everything. And he revealed all of these things to me. 3 hours later, I left. We were like fast friends. And I'm like, this is a shame that I can't share much of this with readers because I have this much space, in the New York Times. And so that's when he was like, you really need to start a podcast. And then I eventually did, and I asked him to be my first guest.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
So from having that initial, kind of awakening of, all right, maybe I should start a podcast doing this, how long was the turnaround from that idea to then starting it?
Yeah, I would say probably a year.
Okay.
I first was like really reluctant to be forward facing. I was a therapist who would be like, in the background. It was all about my clients. And even when I was writing, I wrote the things, but nobody heard anything from me really.
Right.
So I always was like in the background, and I was kind of shy as a kid. So I'm like, I don't want to hear my voice, none of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was like, I had to do it. Like eventually I was like, all right, I have to, this is what I want to do, is sit down and have these real conversations with people. So I figured out how to do it, and I like taught myself, what do I need? What's the equipment I need? What are these what is a mic? Like I don't even know anything about them. I figured out how to do it, and I started it. It took me about a year to decide to do it.
Got it. Did you think about starting it video and audio or just
No,
audio at
audio
first?
only. It was only audio. That was hard enough for me to figure out.
Yeah.
And like all it was, looking back, like, okay, I had a voice recorder and 2 mics. And I started with lavalier mics because I would go to actors' apartments and I wanted to be really mobile. I didn't do it with a studio.
Got it. Yeah.
So I'm like, I need to be able to take this stuff with me. And then I edited it myself. So I figured out how to use the editing
Wow.
software, which I was never good at it, to be clear. I'm still not good at it. I have an editor now, but sometimes I'll edit certain things myself anyway. And in fact, I still like edit the audio version of my podcast. I don't edit everything, but like I'll do the intro and all that stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it was audio only until the pandemic. And then actually, no, I take that back. Maybe 2 years in, I interviewed Michael Imperioli from The Sopranos.
So cool.
And it was my son who was like, you should get a video and put it on YouTube. And I was like, what? All right, sure. So we finished the podcast, and then I took out my phone, and I said, can I just ask you some, like, great Sopranos questions? And we'll do, like, a Q&A just on The Sopranos after the whole podcast interview. He said, sure. So I, like, held up my phone like this with my hands. I never tripod or anything. And I was out of frame, and I asked him Sopranos questions. And it was maybe 10 minutes. I put it on YouTube, and people were watching it. So I was like, oh, okay. So for a while, then I would just tack on like a 10-minute video just for YouTube.
Interesting.
And that was still kind of easy, honestly. And I really wasn't putting myself on camera either. And then I remember being at Elizabeth Rome. She was on Law and Order. I went to her place, I remember here when I was in LA one week. And I was getting ready to do that video. And she's like, well, don't you want to be in the video with me? And I'm like, what? No, I'm just in the background. And she's like, no, come sit here. And then the two of us sat there and did the video. And then the pandemic, so I had that. And then the pandemic came and I started doing it on Zoom. So I had the whole interview there on video. So I was like, all right, fine. I'll just put the whole video up.
Okay, cool.
And so no turning back from that.
Yeah. So Tim Gunn was your first guest, and you connected with him through your role with the New York Times, writing articles. From there, did that build your credibility with other people trusting you to interview them, or how were you then able to score these celebrities on the podcast?
Yes, you're very smart. Yes, that's exactly what happens. So it's like you get the credibility by doing the thing.
Yeah.
So the hardest thing is to like get the first thing.
Right.
So it was helpful to me. It was a huge boost that when I was being introduced to these celebrities, I was coming in as the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or the Hollywood Reporter. So that's how I got started booking people. Not booking people, but interviewing them. And then I developed like the goodwill with them. They liked my interviews. They were different than normal media interviews, like not what they were expecting. So when I started the podcast, I went back to people who I had already interviewed. I said, I'm starting this like podcast. I have no audience. Would you mind being a guest? And I had about 5 people who I asked, and they said yes. And then that was that. And then as I went on, then the bigger the names you have, the more you can get.
Yeah.
But I get a tons of no's, don't get me wrong. It's not like, I have to develop a thick skin.
Yeah, totally. You mentioned your interviews being different than typical media interviews, and with your background as a therapist, how do you think that set you apart?
Definitely that's what set me apart.
Yeah.
So I am always tuned in and looking for anything that comes out that's not, like I'm reading between the lines a bit. Now I'm going to scare everybody off by saying this. I used to never, when I would like socialize and stuff in my like early 20s, I would say, I would not mention to anybody that I was a therapist because I realized that people would get scared that I was analyzing them.
Yeah.
And even when I started my show, I didn't even say it. I was like, I didn't tell anybody I was a therapist for years, or like occasionally I might admit it in the middle of it. But yeah, that is what I do though, is like I'm looking for interesting things. And when I see them, I know them. Right. And hopefully people feel comfortable because that's what I have to do. So it's like very natural for me to make somebody feel comfortable, and that helps.
Yeah, it helps them to open up and then share more of a deeper side of them that we don't get to see, but seeing the person behind the character and someone who feels a little bit more real than what we see on screen.
Exactly. And that's always my goal, is to like get to the essence of that person. And I don't always know what it's going to take to get there, but I'm always after that.
Yeah. You also mentioned hearing a lot of no's when you're asking people to come on the show. When you were just starting out, what was your original business plan? Were you trying to do it every single week? How consistent were you? You were doing the editing, the filming, everything, also the booking of guests. What was those early stages like?
Yeah, that was, I mean, it was fun, but I was learning everything.
Yeah.
And it was, I guess I was trying, I think when I started, I was aiming for every other week, maybe. And then I
Okay.
do remember being at like a convention, and there were a lot of podcasters there, and they were like, you really need to be shooting for weekly. So I was like, all right, I'll do weekly. And I did go weekly. I do not do weekly anymore.
Okay.
I have moments where I'm doing weekly. I'm really striving for it.
Yeah.
But I have other, like, I'm a therapist also. I have
Right.
private clients. And yeah, so every week is a bit much. And I don't know how to say this gently. I don't want to like water down the podcast just to have
Yeah.
a bigger number.
That's
So
very real.
yeah.
Yeah. Because with social media and everything, consistency is something that people push and say you need to have, whether it's posting every week on Instagram or posting daily or, on YouTube once a week. But it's a lot. It's time
Yep.
consuming. And I totally get what you're saying, where when you are pushing out content that much, you could feel an episode isn't as great as another episode. Where if you're taking more time to prepare each episode, then you're able to put your all into every single one. Where weekly is more of a challenge for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's more of a challenge. And I'm also like pretty picky about who I have on my show, quite honestly.
Ah,
So, and people know that. And publicists have come to know that also. And like, I will hear that back. They're like, oh, I know. You're like, you're pretty choosy about who you have on. And also, to be on my show, you really have to be famous. It's called Really Famous.
right.
So if you're like an up and comer, it really doesn't work. So it's not that easy to book somebody famous every
Right.
week either. So that's like a whole other.
Yeah, because you're having to talk to their team and find their availability. And
Yep.
when someone who is really famous has a really busy schedule. So,
Yes.
yeah, trying to align those schedules can be tough as well.
100%.
Yeah. So, with being really picky with who you have on your show, obviously they have to be very famous. Besides that, what goes into picking a guest?
So like I said, I'm a bit intuitive, and I kind of like people. And if I sense, oh, that seems like a likable person or an
Yeah.
interesting person, I will see that. And sometimes I'll see it myself when I'm watching something. And I'll be like, oh, I'd really like to talk to that person. So I will pitch their reps about having them on the show. So some will be generated by me, and then I will get pitched people, and I kind of know right away if that person's going to work on my show or not. So generally, and that leads to another answer to a popular question that I get a lot, which is like, who's your favorite guest? I like so many of the people who've been on my show, like
Right.
genuinely really like them. And I think part of it is because I know what I'm doing when I'm picking people for the show.
Yeah, definitely. And when you are pitching to the teams and to potential guests, what does that pitch look like?
It's so varied at this
Yeah.
stage, honestly. Like, I know a lot of people, and I reach out in different ways, and they reach out to me. But if I'm pitching to them, it's helpful if I've already worked with somebody, or if I've already had one of their other clients on the show, or if they know me from some other way, then it's a little bit
Gotcha.
easier. I don't have to really like give them the whole pitch thing. But if it's like a cold pitch, then I'll just be like, hey, this is the show. Here are some of the guests who've been on. That's it. I'll make it really quick, because nobody has time for a long email, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
who's reading these emails anymore? I feel like emails don't even get read anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there was a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm not even sending out any emails anymore. And like, so lately, I don't even remember the last time I did an email pitch, to be honest. So I'm kind of happy about that.
Yeah, for sure. So you have interviewed so many celebrities and you're frequently interviewing these very famous people. From a mental health perspective, that could make someone very nervous or could bring up some anxieties. How do you stay grounded, stay calm? What are some practices that you have to remain present?
When I'm working with a celebrity,
Yes, when you're
as a
interviewing
therapist or on my show?
on your show.
Okay. So part of it is that I've just over the years become a little desensitized to the fact that they're a celebrity.
Yeah,
I like them to feel comfortable. And so I don't want to be all weird with them anyway, and I don't think that's helpful.
right.
There have been moments where, okay, so two things. There have been moments where I'm like in the middle of an interview. This has not happened to me in a few years, I will say, but where I've like had a moment where I was like floating above myself, like right now you are talking to, I don't even remember who it is, but like even Tim Gunn, because I would watch
Yeah.
Project Runway. I mean, so many of the people now. One of my most prolific guest, I call him. He's been on my show 7 times. It's Tim Daly. He was in he was in Madam Secretary. Most people like your age probably know him from. And so he's like a friend of mine at this point, but he wasn't at the beginning.
Yeah.
But even like with him, sometimes I'm like, this is so weird. When I was like a teenager or whatever, however old I was, watching Wings,
Right.
like I never would have thought that I'd be like, oh, hey, Tim, it's time to do another
Yeah.
podcast. Like, it's due. It's been a year and a half. Let's get back on. Whatever.
Yeah.
So I do have these moments where I'm like, this is so wild. Or like, I will be texting somebody. Like Talia Shire is another one. I don't know if you know the Godfather movies, but she was Connie Corleone on The Godfather. And she was Adrian, Rocky's wife in Rocky. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like, what I've come to. And it's so I have moments like that, but it's not really
Yeah.
about nerves, I
Yeah.
guess. It's about like really realizing what's going on in that moment.
Yeah. Kind of the full circle
Yeah.
moments.
I will say when I was writing and before my podcast and I did interview somebody, I felt like it was normal. And then later I heard from her publicist that she thought I was a little fangirlish.
Oh, wow.
And that was weird.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like I was fangirlish. But after that, I knew that I have to make sure that I'm not that.
Yeah.
And I do think that that's helpful.
Yeah.
But I also will say that I get nervous plenty of times before an interview. Again, I feel like I'm not getting as nervous anymore, but I'm picturing I interviewed Jeff Garlin from Curb Your Enthusiasm about a year ago.
Okay.
And I do remember, and maybe I get a little more nervous when I go to their house because I don't really know what to expect. When
Right.
I'm coming into the studio, so you and I use the same studio.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I come into the studio, like I know exactly what's what. I'm in my
Right.
zone and it's like easy.
Yeah.
If I'm going to somebody's house, I have no idea what I'm walking into. And I'm setting up the cameras and things. I may have one other person with me, but occasionally I don't.
Yeah.
So I remember going to Jeff's house, and that was another moment where I was like, this is so weird. Like, I am in the Hollywood Hills right now, driving to see Jeff Garlin. I'd already met him. Like, we had talked.
Yeah.
That's how I booked him on the show, is he and I had met. But I'm like, this is so weird. And I was doing it at his house, so I was like, feeling very nervous. And I remember taking a little, like going on my Instagram story and saying like, I am nervous right now. And this is always what happens to me right before an interview.
Yeah.
But then it's like, once I get there, I'm totally fine. So it's like, you have to also lean in to the nerves.
Yeah.
As this is a good sign. You're doing something really cool.
Right.
Like that's what I try to tell people in my therapy practice too. And I remember I did a live show in front of an audience, a podcast recording for the first time. It was right before COVID. So it was like, I was planning to keep going with it. It was a few weeks before. It was Michael Imperioli again. He came back on the show for this.
Okay.
And I remember like being like, why did I decide to do this? I am so nervous. I have to get up, do an intro in front of everybody. And I booked the venue. I had to plan it all out. So it was like a lot of logistics too.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous for weeks leading up to it. And even when I arrived that day, I was like, okay, I'm rehearsing my intro. I'm like, this is so nerve-wracking. And as soon as somebody told me, oh, Michael's here, relaxed.
Yeah.
Relaxed. So that I always know when I'm nervous, you're going to be fine once you're doing it.
Yeah.
So just like write it out. This is a good thing. This is part of the emotions of life.
Totally. I think that's something a lot of performers experience. As a dancer, I could be so nervous before I'm about to go on stage and like rehearsing it 1,000 times. As soon as I step on stage, the nerves disappear. It's kind of like once showtime commences, like it's go time.
Yeah. And I don't really know. You would think I would know because I'm a therapist.
Yeah.
But I really don't even know what the mechanism is behind that. But somehow it works.
Yeah.
But I say lean for anybody who is getting nervous before something, lean into it. Don't be afraid of the nerves. Don't be afraid that you're nervous, scared, sweating, heart is beating fast. It's fine. This is just your body not knowing what to expect.
Right. And it shows that you care. If you didn't care, you weren't excited about it, you wouldn't feel nervous.
Yeah.
And they say that, nerves can feel very similar to the same way excitement feels. So even reframing it, I think, helps of like, I'm not nervous, I'm excited.
100%. So I also like to tell people who I'm working with in therapy, like there's anxiety by the way, something totally separate from an anxiety disorder. But
Yeah.
a lot of people, especially today, will use a lot of therapy terms. So you're going to be thinking like, oh, I have anxiety.
Right.
Oh no, what's wrong with me? I'm making a big life change and I have anxiety. The anxiety's out of control. But lots of times, this is just normal. So these are normal feelings and excitement. And of course, you're going to there's fear there. So anxiety is also fear. And lots of that fear it's there for a reason. It's normal and it's natural, but we don't need it for this. But it's because you don't know what's going on and it's scary to your brain.
Right.
And on the other side is excitement. So you can tell yourself, I have anxiety, or you can tell yourself, this is exciting. And you have the choice.
Of the way that you think about it and frame it in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. I struggle with anxiety and I have ADHD, so I'm picking up on these notes and putting them into my pocket.
Yes, good. Take them.
Yeah.
And like anxiety is real, and I really don't mean to minimize it. But I think that a lot of what people do today is like see themselves as being like damaged or broken, or oh no, I'm this or I have that.
Right.
And really a lot of these things, they're uncomfortable, but they can be worked through. And you really, as long as you don't see them as a threat, like you don't want to be anxious about your anxiety.
Right.
You don't want to worry about being worried.
Totally.
It's okay. You're going to feel these things, but that's okay.
Right.
That's all right.
Knowing that it's okay.
It's okay.
You got to go through it and grow through it.
That's right.
Yes.
And you know the things, and then you're going to come out on the other side and you're going to feel okay.
Yeah. I love that, and I think that's a good reminder. Yeah. So when you're going into these interviews with celebrities, how much do you prepare? Are you researching? Are you coming up with every single question, or are you kind of like winging it and letting it flow?
I am a in the moment kind of person.
Yeah.
And as a therapist, that's like I have to be also. So that's also kind of who I am. I'm not a big planner in life either, but I definitely need to know who I'm about to talk to. So I will do some research. I just don't want to go too deep into it because I don't want to ask the same questions they've been asked before. So like if you're going to Google somebody, you're going to get all the things that have been said, and then you're going to end up with the same stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't want to know all that. I also don't want to have judgments about the person before I talk to them. So it's like, don't tell me too much and let me just get to know you in this moment. But I don't want to be also like unprepared. And also sometimes I have interviewed people and maybe I haven't asked about one show they were on, let's say. And like afterwards, I'm like, oh, how could I not have asked that? It just didn't come up. I forgot.
Right.
But so usually I'll do some research and I'll like bullet point some things to myself.
Okay.
Like maybe I'll touch on these things. I'll look at my bullet points before the interview, and then I'll just see what happens in the moment.
Yeah. So kind of like a balance of a few things, few reminders, but also really letting it flow and being there in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's big for me.
How do you remain so present in conversations and in life? I think that's something like people can struggle with, is being in the present moment. Their head could be in another place or thinking about something, or oh, what am I eating for dinner later? How are you able to kind of like ground yourself and remain present with who you're speaking to?
So there are tools and techniques for that, strategies, and I share them with clients in therapy. because that's common what you're talking about.
Yeah.
For me, being present is my natural state. So, like I said before, I'm not a planner. So, like, I've always been somebody who's right there in the now. I mean, I am thinking about cool things for the future. I am not much stuck in the past, and I'm reflective about things, but I always like to be, like, naturally, I am present.
Yeah. Okay.
But there are tools for that to get yourself present. And, like, and one thing I really like to remind people too is you think everybody's looking at you, watching you, and you need to make sure that you come across a certain way or do a certain thing. But in reality, everybody is obsessed with themselves. They're all thinking about
Yeah.
themselves. They are not thinking about you. So just get out of your head and stop worrying about how you might appear or what you're supposed to say,
Yeah.
and just be there with that person.
Yeah. It's so interesting how so many things that you're saying, I'm able to kind of see how I've learned that through dance in different ways.
Interesting.
Like it's something that we're, in auditions, everyone can get nervous, everyone's looking at you, what if you mess up? And something I always think about is everyone's on the side practicing it a bunch of times because they're very focused on them getting it, that no one's really watching you when you go out because they're so focused on what they're doing so that they have it when they go out on the floor. So that's kind of interesting what you just said. Like I totally
Yes.
had that visual from dance.
100%. And also, like, when somebody's coming in to be interviewed, like, they're nervous also often. Not
Right.
always. Not everybody is. But, like, they also have to watch out that they
Yeah.
don't say something that they shouldn't, or, like, if they want to come across a certain way, or some actors come in and they feel like they're supposed to push a project that they have coming out.
Yeah.
So it's like they have things themselves too. So it's helpful to realize that the other people around you are going through things.
Right, that you're not alone in it
Yeah.
either, that other people are experiencing their own,
Yeah.
things that they're going through.
That's so interesting that you learned this and you can see yourself. So you've been able to kind of remove yourself and see even through these like situations in dance.
Yeah.
And like analyze yourself a bit and learn from it. That's powerful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just like the visual just like comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a dance movie. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called She Dances. It came out a few months ago. Steve Zahn, he made it with his like film partner Rick Gomez, and he stars in it with his daughter Audrey Zahn, and she was a dancer or is a dancer growing up, and he was like a dance dad. So it's about this, and I totally recommend it. It was so good. It's such a good movie. It's called She Dances.
Okay.
And he plays a dance dad to his real life daughter, who is a dancer, and she's competing in all these competitions.
My mom and I need to watch this.
You must.
Yes. My mom, like, she was a dance mom because I'm a dancer, but she wasn't like your typical dance mom.
Oh, right. I wasn't even thinking about dance moms.
Yeah.
Right.
But I just have to clarify because.
Okay.
But I'm like, me and her need to watch that because that was our life, like going around to competitions and dance classes and things like that. But I definitely need to check that out.
Yeah. I think you'll like it.
So with Really Famous, what were some of the biggest challenges you overcame with getting it off the ground and throughout your process filming the podcast, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I would say the technical aspects of it, like I was saying, have always been a challenge for me. So before I could like actually get people to help who know what they're doing, trying to figure it all out and not messing it up, there have been so many times where I screwed something up technically.
Yeah.
I set up a camera and it was blurry, or I forgot to hit record on a camera, or I would be editing and I don't know what I did, but I would mess everything up and I wouldn't know how to get out of it. So a lot of that was the technical aspects of it. It's also like not that easy to really put yourself out there and like be known. So like it's a process and it takes time.
Yeah.
So you can't expect that you're going to launch a podcast and then it's going to be super popular unless you're Amy Poehler.
Right.
In which case you can do exactly that and good for her. But it's like those are the ones that are going to get recognized first. But you just keep going and over time, people will get to know it and get to know you.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder in starting any business or starting anything is being realistic with yourself of like, this is going to take time. And if you're not exactly where you want to be in the first 6 months, the first year of starting it, you just need to keep going and keep building.
Yeah, yeah. And it really takes a lot longer than you expect it to, is what I would say.
Yeah, totally. What do you think kept you going with it?
I just have to do it. It is just like, it's my calling, I kind of feel like. I don't feel good when it's been too long and I haven't been filming. I love it. Yeah, I just love it. Like, this is everything for me. Everything has come together from, my therapy training and writing and my love for TV and film, and like, it just all came to this. So like, I don't need there's nothing I need to keep it going, except I just need help doing the work.
Yeah, and I think that's like a sign too that when you're away from filming for too long, you're needing to get back to it, that you're meant to do it. And even with your business experience too, that pops in there with
100%.
podcast.
I mean, I definitely, having that like background in business has been critical, not critical, but very helpful, I would say.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of people now are running their own businesses.
Right.
So even like an influencer would be running their own business. So it's helpful to know this stuff.
Absolutely.
And see it as a business.
Yeah, it's very cool how you've taken all the pieces of the puzzle and they've all come together to create Really Famous.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, so we're going to get into some segments.
Okay.
One of the segments I do on Call Sheet Confessions is Industry Icks, or your industry betrayal list. This could be anything like egotistical people or people being late or anything that kind of icks you out. What's your industry ick?
Okay. I would say it is interesting being on the receiving end of because you do have to watch how you say it. It's been tricky sometimes with. All right, I'm going to say it. With publicists who feel like they have to say no for somebody when that person would have wanted to say yes, because it's like an old school thing is, I'm a gatekeeper and I have to say no to everybody who comes in.
Yeah.
That's like a pet peeve for me. It's an ick. You'd call it an ick. I do have a little story where I was interviewing somebody for the Wall Street Journal, and I think I had already pitched her publicist. First, I pitched her for a story in the New York Times, and the publicist was like, no, she would never do that. She's way too private for this. Like, she would not want to do a piece like you want to do with her for the Times. And then I was like, okay, how about this kind of piece for the Wall Street Journal? And she was like, yeah, that one I think she'll probably do, but I'll check with her. And then I went to interview her. We had a great time. The interview was over. And I was like, are you sure you don't want to do that piece for the New York Times? And she was like, what piece? And like, she was annoyed because her publicist didn't even run it by her.
Yeah.
And she was like, of course I would do that. So it's gatekeepers. I don't like gatekeepers.
Yeah. That makes sense. Because
they're there for a reason, I know.
Right.
But I just don't like it.
Yeah, because it's like their job to be protective and ultra considerate of how this person appears to the public eye. But when it hinders something like that they didn't even get to approve it themselves, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Things could have went a different way. So my podcast is called Call Sheet Confessions. Carol, what is your call sheet confession?
Well, my confession is that I don't really have a call sheet ever. I am not somebody on the call sheet.
Right.
So I don't know.
This could really be anything. It could be like someone showing up late, how you had to like figure out how to like solve the problem, or
okay, I'll give you one.
Yeah,
recent.
It could be anything.
I had somebody come in to do the show, and speaking of publicists, I had told so this person was on, he was used to being on a lot of shows as a guest.
Okay.
The kind of show where you would they were shorter segments. So very different from my show, which is like a good hour and a half even, where we're sitting down and just having organic conversation. And so I knew that he was very used to those other shows. So I told her ahead of time, hey, just give him a heads up. It's very organic. Like, we are, of course, going to talk about his products that he's not pushing, but that he would like to plug.
Right.
Which is what you do. Like, we do that, of course. But, like, I'm not going to come in and, like, hard sell my audience on what he would like to sell. That's not what we're here for.
Right.
But at the same time, you're coming on. Of course, I want to help you get the word out about something.
Totally.
So she said, yeah, he knows. And then he arrived and was expecting something entirely different than what we were doing. And he was really thrown in the moment. And it was before we even sat down and talked. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to really shift things here to make him feel okay about this. And it did work out. I explained. I think he was a little thrown, like I said, at first. And then as the interview was starting, I felt like, I don't know if he even wants to be here right now. I think he's probably annoyed at this whole thing. And he's like, I didn't know anything about this.
Wow.
So, but we kept going, and I think it turned out okay. But yeah.
How did you go about, like, kind of shifting that energy?
Well, I guess, I mean, I told him, I said, listen, we are totally going to do what you want to talk about also, but like, everybody will not want to listen if we just start talking about it. It's just not that kind of show. And then I guess I started, well, you know what? I probably have a better example, honestly. It's when I interviewed Spike Lee. So I had him on my show recently, but my first interview with him was for the New York Times, and I was doing a piece, a type of column called Sunday Routine. So it was like it covered somebody and what they did on a typical Sunday. So I was going in to interview him only about his Sunday routine, and I asked him questions. He was really not friendly at all.
Wow.
And I was so nervous. That's when I was so nervous. By the way, so nervous going in because he's like, yeah, he has a reputation and he's big, right? So I was nervous, and you could kind of feel, I could feel, it was very nerve-wracking being in his office. And I was asking him questions about his Sunday. He would give me like 1 or 2 word answers.
Which is hard to work with.
Yeah. And I knew, I'm like, I'm getting what I need here for this article, which will be short, but I need more. I need to connect with him more than this.
Yeah.
So I started to ask him more. I asked him about his favorite movie when he was a kid that has stayed with him until now. And he told me it was Bye Bye Birdie. He saw it when he was a kid, and his mom took him to see it at Radio City Music Hall, and it changed everything. And then he told me that at the beginning of Do the Right Thing, Rosie Perez is dancing, and he didn't even realize it until later, after the film came out, that Rosie Perez dancing was basically Anne Margaret dancing at the beginning of Bye Bye Birdie that he had seen as a kid. So that was interesting. And then after that, his demeanor changed.
After you kind of cracked him open.
I cracked him open. I didn't feel like he was really totally cracked open, but I knew something had shifted. And that's when he was like, wait, where do you live again? What's your last name again? And then at the end, after we wrapped up, he was like, let me show you something. And then he took me on a tour of like all of his memorabilia, his film and sports memorabilia. And it was pretty cool. And then his publicist later told me he doesn't do that with anybody.
Wow.
So you did fine.
Yeah.
And then speaking of persistence, I, after that, wanted to get him on the podcast. And I asked him to come on. This was years ago. It took years for us to finally connect and him to finally say, okay, tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Wow.
And so you just keep going, and you just keep getting rejected and feeling like they don't want to be on your show, but you still keep going anyway. Not for everybody, but you have to be persistent.
Yeah, definitely. I think with anything, like, having that perseverance, continuing to go for it, even after hearing no, and if you believe in it, making it happen. I think something you said too, finding that thing to connect on with someone, when they're kind of putting on that hard exterior, it's hard to get them to kind of like give you what you need. It's finding just that one thing that you guys can connect on, which then can open up that person.
Yeah. And there have been plenty of people who I felt like were, there was some kind of a barrier, and not everybody is easy to crack. And like, just for the record, he never said no. It just never lined up, or like he would ignore me or whatever. So if somebody says no, I don't know that I would keep asking them. Depends on the person, right? It really depends
Yeah.
on what your relationship is and what kind of no they're giving you. But yeah, I mean, that's what I have to do as a therapist too. Like, people aren't always ready to talk about the things they really don't want to talk about, even though they're there to talk about them.
Right.
So I have to learn how to approach somebody from different angles.
Yeah. If you can't get in the front
Yeah.
door, go the side door.
Yeah.
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 Trying different ways
And
to
test it out. And like, you don't
Yeah.
always get in the door, but try different things.
Right. You've interviewed all these different celebrities. What's one thing they all have in common?
Yeah. Okay. So one thing, and a lot of people do ask me
Yeah.
that question because people do want to know. There are like two things that I would say. One is that they have self-doubt, like everybody else. So just because they are successful does not mean that they are 100% feeling like, oh yeah, they're the bomb, like whatever.
Right.
And I know the bomb. Somebody just said that word to me the other day. I was like, this is so fast and past the bomb. She was like, we were at a restaurant in Hawaii, and the server's like, you got to get this dessert. It's the bomb. Anyway, it just came out. It's funny. But yeah, so people have insecurities.
Yeah.
Just like everybody who's not a celebrity.
Right.
They have insecurities too. So that is the common thread, and not because they're celebrities, but because they are humans, and everybody has insecurities. And then the other thing I will say is that a lot of them who are successful just kept going in the face of rejection. They got rejected. They still get rejected over and over and over again. It's the nature of the business.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, and they do have different reasons, they just keep going even though they keep getting rejected.
I think it's like having that courage and audacity to just believe in yourself.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like you really just have, like I was saying, I just have to do my show.
Right.
I don't have any choice. I just feel compelled to do it.
Yeah.
So even in the moments when I don't believe that, like, oh, it's going to do well and like I'm going to get 1 million guests and 1 million viewers or whatever else, like even the moments when I might doubt that, I still have to do it. I just have no other choice.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're just drawn to it,
Right.
drawn towards wherever they want to be.
Yeah. You mentioned facing insecurities, that, celebrities still face those things. And even someone like me on a smaller scale, from posting and just being on social media, you can receive hate comments or people saying what they say, and they can hurt. What's advice that you have for combating that, or building yourself up in the face of seeing, negativity?
Yeah, that is a tough one. And some people are better at it than others about not taking it in. For me personally, when I started getting, like, I would see a bad comment on a YouTube video or something like that. And of course, it was like, it was rare compared to the positive comments.
Right,
but
right.
Human nature is you're going to pay more attention to the negative comments. And that's part because that's survival instinct, right? You have to be able to recognize when there's a threat. It's not a threat, so it's not useful anymore, but there's a reason we're drawn to the negatives. So when I would see something like that, pretty quickly, I would say, I would start to see it as, okay, as long as you're watching, thank you very much. Keep watching. That's another view.
Yeah.
And that's another ad that you just paid for by watching the thing. So like that's just like a little way I have come to deal with these things. And also then some of the comments were so ridiculous that I'm like, this is actually entertaining. So what that showed me is that these aren't people these are not real, like, valid statements. So you really have to write off those things.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to somebody recently who, like, when we were talking on the phone, and like he was really getting disturbed by what he was seeing in the comments. And I told him, I said, listen, you've got to get out of the comments. There is no place for you there. You do not belong there. That is some kind of trench and black hole. It's not reality.
Right.
So you really have to not attach emotions to that. if you can help it.
Yeah.
And if you can't help it, then like talk to somebody who can help you and give you the tools to.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point of like when you see a negative comment being like, well, thanks for the comment because that just boosted my engagement. And
Exactly.
I found myself framing it that way too, which has helped of being like, all right, you know, whatever. You chose the time out of your day to comment that. And you know what? It's boosting my engagement.
That's right. That's right. And you know you would never do something like that. So it's like you
Right.
really have to discount all of those comments.
Yes, because the other thing is too, would that person's opinion in like even matter to me? Like, who are they to be saying something like that? And if it's just negativity, then you're a negative person. And
Yeah.
that
I mean, it's somebody
sucks.
who would
Yeah.
go through the trouble of trying to say something negative on somebody else's video or post, whatever.
Right.
You know, and like I see that sometimes too when I post things on my Instagram and people will say negative things about a guest of mine. And I'm like, this, and also if they're collaborating on the post, let's say,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, what are these people doing? Like they know they're talking trash about the person who posted the thing.
Right.
Like there's something wrong here.
Yes.
So you don't need to listen to that. There's no credibility there.
Exactly. Yeah. I've been posting dance videos since I was a child. And in school, I remember people posting my dance videos, making fun of them or getting comments throughout the years. And it bothered me in school being surrounded by like so many, people like and dealing with bullying at that age. But I always was like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I was very confident in my abilities. Throughout my life, I've struggled with skin issues. I've had times where my skin's been perfectly clear. I've had times where my skin's breaking out and I don't know what's going on. And I've gotten a lot of comments or more comments recently about my skin. And those have been more hurtful. Where the dancing, I'm confident in those abilities and I don't really get that many hate comments on that anymore. And if I do, I can kind of like push those to the side. When it comes to comments about someone's skin or their physical appearance, those are harder to kind of push to the side because those are often things you can't change.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are, and it is hard. So it's not easy to be able
Yeah.
to just brush it off and say and discount those, the people who are saying things. But like, it's why would you say something like that?
Right.
I saw something with I think Tracy Ellis Ross had said something recently about her mom is Diana Ross, the singer, and of course Tracy is famous in her own right, big. But she was saying that when she was growing up, she, like, I think purposely told herself, everybody's staring at me. It must be because I'm really beautiful. And, like, so she intentionally, even though she didn't feel like that's why they were staring at her,
Yeah.
she trained her brain to think that's why they were
Yeah.
staring at her, which that's pretty powerful. I don't know that
It
everybody,
is.
can see that as a kid and be able to say that, but you can kind of channel that.
Yeah.
You can take that and be like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to channel that kind of approach.
Right. Make that your reality. Yeah, I really like that. That's a great tool. Yeah. Well, I am so inspired by you and your story and what you do. And, I just started my podcast in January, and it's really cool sitting across someone who has done this for a while, interviewing people and some huge names in this industry. What advice do you have for any aspiring podcasters, interviewers, or people that want to work in the industry?
So I would say, thank you, by the way.
Of
I
course.
would say, like we said before, you just have to expect it to be a process that takes time, and you don't want to
Yeah.
beat yourself up for any of it. I will say something also a little bit more specific, and I do think at the beginning I didn't want to join a podcast network. I felt like I
Yeah.
really wanted to, I have to be 100% my own.
Right.
And I think that made it a little harder for me to grow at the beginning. So that is something that I would do differently. So if you have the chance to, and I don't even know what it would be now, if it would be a podcast network or collab it with somebody else or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would say join forces with people instead of going solo.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's something I've been going back and forth about because I had the same thing. I wanted this to be my own thing, something I have like control and power over. But there is a benefit in collaboration for sure.
Yeah, and I will say also, like, I have no idea what would have happened if I did give up some control.
Right.
Right. So like I do have total control over my show. I can do whatever I want and have whoever I want on.
Yeah.
And like I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'm
Right.
giving that
Yeah.
advice just like with the caveat that actually like if you stick with it long enough and it is your own, then it may work out just fine
Yeah.
anyway.
What's a mantra or motto that you live by that carries you through?
I would say like this is what I was made for. So if I'm facing something that is challenging, I know, okay, it's like we were saying with the nerves before. This is okay. This is life. I'm living life and I'm going to do it. Like I'm cut out for this
Yeah.
and I'm ready to do it and ready to take it on no matter what it is.
I love that. Yeah. Are you living your dream?
Yeah, I would say that I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I am. And I think I'm living it more and more and more and more as I see it. And I really do appreciate it. Like, I definitely take it all in and I notice it. I am very aware of it. I am not sleepwalking. I see like the life that I've carved out for myself. And I'm like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is pretty cool.
And there will be more. And I like that because it's good. It's good.
Yes. Yes. Well, Kara, thank you so much for coming on Call Sheet Confessions. Congratulations on everything that you've accomplished, and I can't wait to check out this movie that you mentioned.
Yeah, she dances.
And watch some more of your podcast episodes. Thank you for taking the time today to come on.
Thank you. It was great. I loved it. And you are really a good interviewer.
Thank you.
I was told that you are, and yeah, it's true.
Thank you so
You're really
much.
tuned in, you pay attention, and you have great questions.
I really appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you. Thank you. What's next for you? What can we look forward to? Where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube. You can find me at really-famous.com. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Yeah, all the places. And my therapy practice also it's a little different. My therapy practice, I have like a concierge practice where I have just a few clients who I talk to like all the time. But there's more on that at hollywoodwellness.org.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for watching this episode of Call Sheet Confessions. Always make sure to work hard and chase the dream, because if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. May your call times be reasonable and your checks be on time. And like my Mimi always says, break a leg, but not really. We'll see you next time. Bye.